With the boundaries set, it was time to move on to the development of the buildings that would adorn the area. Jacobs was asked to not create single-family housing. Therefore, instead, he developed multi-story garden apartments that would surround a green space. He planned on connecting this green space that he created to playing fields that would be used as additional buffer zone for the people against the industrialization zone. However, this became an additional headache because Republic Steel wanted to be able to continue to dump their waste into the area. But Jacobs, however, would soon win that argument, and it was determined that his plan was the way to go. When it came to the school that was to be constructed in the area, Jacobs did not want to incorporate it directly in the center of the project. He believed that it was a better idea to keep it on the outskirts, as it would then be able to draw kids from both the Garden Valley and the adjacent older neighborhoods. Jacobs looked at how the streets should be set up. He did not want to maintain the old grid-like form that could be seen in many of the older neighborhoods of the time. He found this hard to accomplish, though, and had to make a few compromises on the area, but was able to achieve his idea and make it work for the area. The last portion of the plan that Jacobs looked at was a suspension bridge that had already been in place. He determined that he wanted to keep the suspension bridge because it was one of the only ways connecting Garden Valley to the adjacent neighborhoods. The suspension bridge also had historical value as it was the first suspension bridge of its kind in Cleveland. With the planning done, it was time for the building to begin and the decision on which buildings to destroy in order for the successful completion of. By 1957, people began moving into the newly constructed 222 apartment buildings, and by 1970 there were over 650 housing units, a new school, playing fields, and a playground. However, the project did not turn out the way that it was originally planned. 2 years after the first people moved into the first apartment buildings in 1959, Garden Valley was already being called an eyesore area. How did this area turn into an area that was exactly what the city was trying to get rid of? Some people believe that it is because of the policies that were put in place that allowed people of poor income to move into the area and not the middle-class tenants that the city of Cleveland wanted to be the residents of the newly created area. Although it could not be determined if the middle-class citizens of Cleveland that moved to the suburbs would have even wanted to move back into the city into apartment complexes. Also, the housing that was created in the area was too expensive for the residents that they had displaced. This left many vacant apartments in the area and only few residents strewn throughout the new project. The residents of the area blamed the landlords for mismanagement and poor maintenance of the area, while at the same time the landlords blamed the tenants for vandalism and other acts. While the city tried to deal with the problems that were occurring in the area, it began having other bigger problems to deal with, such as the faltering economy of Cleveland area and the Cuyahoga River catching on fire. With these two occurrences, Cleveland took the vision of the Cleveland leaders away from the projects. Cleveland had now been given the nickname the Mistake on the Lake. When Alan Jacobs looked back at his first project, he looks towards a few things that he believes caused the project to not become the success that was initially thought it would be. He believes that the way he set up the roads failed to create a community, and that the apartment buildings did not give the residents of the area a sense of ownership. These two things, however, he believes pales in comparison to the number one reason he believes that the project did not create a successful community. He states that they never got input from the residents of the area. They never knew what it was that these people who would be living here wanted in their community, so the project was strictly done in a direct, top-down manner. He believes that if they would have taken input from the people, that the outcome of the Garden Valley project would have been different. Jacob has a theory that in order for an urban planner to be successful, they must be able to feel themselves in the area where they are currently working or looking at for urban renewal. Urban planners have begun to rely too heavily on statistical information for the decisions they make in regards to the renewal of an area. They may look at the number of vacant houses, the statistical numbers of the ages of the residents, and even the proportion of race. These are all numbers that professionals who support urban renewal like to see, as they prefer hard data over observation. He believes that urban planners must move away from the statistical facts and go out and observe the area firsthand. The best way to accomplish this is to observe the location on foot. While on foot, Jacobs believes a planner can get a real view of the area from its history, local residents, and the general feel of the area. However, there is much more to Jacobs' theory and observation than simply observing. It is noted that different people will view an area or environment differently. What someone may deem to be disturbing and makes them feel uncomfortable can actually make another person feel at home. This can be anything from the way the residents act in the neighborhood all the way to how the houses are situated. Jacobs understands that people will bring their own biases with them when they are observing, but they must understand that people view environments from different perspectives. This is why he proposes the theory that the best way for an urban planner to get a proper feel on the environment is to conduct field observations in groups with other planners. While the area of Kingsbury Run fit perfectly into the plans of removing blighted areas and slum clearance that came with the Housing Act of 1949, the addition of new housing was unable to create the community that was initially planned for the area. They were unable to remove the social menaces that plagued the area. While they removed the murders, the new residents still partook in acts of vandalism and other activities that are shunned by a moral society. With this being seen, is it even possible for the simple activity of building houses to remove social problems and create a community that is successful? The Garden Valley Project showed that more is needed to be done in order to take an area that is determined blighted that just creating housing that is considered blighted than just creating housing. The problem runs much deeper and stems from the residents that inhabit the area. This is why, for the successful renewal of an area, Jacobs' theory of being able to place yourself in the environment is one of the best ways to create a successful community-like atmosphere, by focusing on the residents and moving in a bottom-up fashion, instead of entering with a plan and trying to force the residents to adapt to the plan. One cannot go back in time and see if the different plan of action could have created a successful community in the Garden Valley area. However, today Cleveland has been looking at another project that could potentially bring urban renewal into Garden Valley. Maybe this time they will focus on what the residents want and finally be able to create the happy community that they originally envisioned.